You are listening to 90.3 The Core, and this is It Came From the Basement. Got a little something different planned for tonight. We're still going to be spinning some records, but it's going to be a big interview chunk because tonight with me, I have Tannis and Ari from 00 and Misty K. How's everyone doing?
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
For those of you who may not know, very big in New Brunswick, very important to the scene. Part of the reason I came here. Ari has fronted many a band that I've lost my mind over, such as Lifetime, Beach Rats, 00 along with Tannis. And it's, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for joining me on the air.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's a really cool opportunity to interview you guys, hang out for a bit. I'm going to move that. There's some Post-it notes on there. All right, so starting out, I got a couple questions for Ari. So while doing my research, I found out online that, you grew up around Edison area,
Yep.
correct? And you started going to punk shows in the late 80s up in New Brunswick, and you mentioned that you saw Husker Du, I think, at the gym up here.
Yeah,
So, like,
that was my first show.
What were those punk shows like?
There was a lot of, in Rutgers, there was the student centers where they'd have bigger shows, and then there was a series of really great shows at a place, Scott Hall. There was also, I guess the Core Tavern had shows, but they weren't all ages. But my first show was Husker Du at I think the Livingston Gym, and that pretty much did it for me.
It's pretty cool hearing about how they were throwing shows in Scott Hall and now they just use it for classes.
Oh, there was some crazy shows in Scott Hall. That's one of the coolest places to play.
Actually?
Yeah.
Did you guys ever get to play there?
My first band that I played drums in was called Enough, and we played there, I think, in 1988 with like Bold. I saw like tons of great bands pass through there, but that was definitely one of the cooler spots. Yeah.
Cool. No, it's like blowing my mind that they threw shows at Scott Hall, because now like the places we throw shows here, it's either one of the student centers or someone's house.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Rutgers started cracking down on all that stuff after it started getting more notoriety.
Yeah.
As they do. So you wound up moving to New Brunswick at one point.
Yep.
And you had the house on Handy, right?
Well, before that, when I first moved to town, it was Lifetime had already started, and a few of the guys, me and our drummer Dave Wagenschutz, and a couple friends, and then also Rob Fish, who was in Resurrection and 108. We both, we all moved there to, what street was that on? That was
Somerset?
Was it
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Right?
So yeah.
Where the
So
Souls
first we
were?
moved to Hamilton, and so the Lifetime, like a few of the Lifetime guys lived on the same street, and then down the street was the Bouncing Souls lived in over a florist's, and that's how we first met them. But what was the question?
No, I just like I don't really have questions. I have more like just talking points
Sure.
and stuff because it's easier. Yeah, the Souls were over on 174 Commercial, right?
Yeah, they were on. Well, first they were on Commercial before Hamilton, and then they were on Hamilton, and then after Hamilton, I moved to Handy Street, and yeah, there was a bit of moving around, but the Handy Street house was like the big one because that's where we used to put on shows. Chris Ross pretty much spearheaded the shows there, and I think at that point the Souls were starting to move out of town. They may have moved to Hoboken or were on their way to move to Hoboken or something like that around that point.
Yeah, you mentioned like Bill Schultz was kind of like one of the unsung heroes of that whole scene and era, along with Chris Ross, right?
Yeah.
So like, what was their job in that area?
Well, we all Chris was putting on basement shows before everybody. At one point in Handy Street, it was like me and Dave from Lifetime, and then there was, I think there was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 people living in the house at one point, and everybody was in a band. And Chris had already, I think, had the house before everybody kind of moved in, and he was already doing shows there before. Bill Schultz was like, he helped just kind of run everything. He ran the door sometimes, like just helped with everything. And everybody kind of helped out. But I would say it was Chris Ross's, he was the man. And going back to like Scott Hall days, years before that, like his first band, I think it was his first band, but his band, PED, I used to go see them play when I was in high school. And they were like the local weirdo punk sort of hardcore band, well before Lifetime. And
New Brunswick seemed to be like a hub for weirdo hardcore, which I liked, just kind of taking the formula and changing it in a way that really hadn't been done. Like I remember the first time I heard Dead Guy,
yeah,
I was like, oh, I can see how this led to what's going on now, but I don't know how that happened from before.
Yeah.
So cool stuff like that. And you mentioned before you played drums in Enough.
Right.
That was more like a skate punky hardcore type of outfit. How long was that around?
That was we did that for a few years. And eventually basically broke up, I think like before the summer of like 1989. Because after we broke up, then I played drums for Up Front for a summer tour in 1989. And so it just happened real fast. Like Enough was together. We recorded a demo and played a bunch of shows, like played some really great shows. And but eventually that broke up. And I quickly just jumped in the van with Up Front for like 2.5 months.
What was that tour experience like?
That definitely changed my life. I was 17, I think. 1989, no cell phones, no, like once you're out, you're just like gone. And that was the summer that pretty much every big straight edge band, especially like the New York bands, were all touring. And so basically for like 2.5 months, we crisscrossed the States and got to play with everybody from like we were on tour with like Unipride and played with like Bold, Youth Today, Gorilla Biscuits. Like everybody was just on tour. Super Touch, everybody.
Sounds like a wild time.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
All right, so break for now, play some songs going into the, because coming up next, I have more of my Lifetime-related questions. So, what was the thought process moving from a more, like, traditional hardcore, like Enough, to a more melodic and hook-focused, like Lifetime?
I think that's just what I liked. I think I always, like, some of my favorite hardcore bands and punk bands were bands that were very, like, hooky, bands that could take, like, something poppy, but also kind of make it aggressive, I guess. So when I met Dan and we started Lifetime, that was definitely, I was interested in trying to figure out how to sing like some of my favorite bands, like, I don't know, like Dag Nasty and Gorilla Biscuits, and like anything that had like some melody over the hardcore I was really into.
No, I think I remember, because that's kind of what I always loved, was the aggression, but also the accessibility of the music, because like you're able to jump off of stuff while it's playing, but it's also an earworm that's going to stick with you and you're going to sing along to it, which is always good to have songs. So follow up to that, I wanted to ask, like, Lifetime is a very important band to a lot of people who went on to do some very big things. And what I wanted to ask what it's like to have bands like Fall Out Boy coming to you being like, hey, can I please put out your record? You guys can do whatever you want, complete creative control. And having that credibility to be gifted a freedom like that, which a lot of bands don't normally get.
Well, I think, I definitely feel super lucky. And I know the rest of the guys in the band, like, we're all like, we're always still surprised by it. But yeah, all of us are very grateful that, I don't know, certain people like, and people still like, and people still get into it. And it's the best. It's awesome. But yeah, being able to, he gave us the opportunity to put out a record. Pete, that's his name. Pete gave us the opportunity to put out a record, and basically said, just do whatever you want. And it was awesome. Yeah.
That is, and also with that record, I found online, you guys actually popped back up in a basement.
Yes,
so,
we did.
What was it like?
In New Brunswick. That's right. What was that like? It was great. We always have fun playing. So, like, no matter where we play, if we play it was crowded. Anytime we play, we just always have a blast. We just love, any opportunity to be with each other and play is always good.
No, I definitely get that vibe, especially seeing you guys last weekend, like, cracking jokes on stage. I remember the one dude screaming from the crowd, "Do it from the kids," and "Do it for the kids." And Dan's like, "How many kids are here?" And I think me and a couple other people raised our hands. He's like, "We're not doing it for the kids." So it's always nice seeing bands having a fun time on stage together, especially after so many years together.
Yeah, we like each other. We crack each other up the whole time, so it's fun.
And also, like, staying true to the hardcore ethos, everything. I remember I was reading that when you guys did the reunion, before the reunion, when you guys were nearing the end of the first tenure of the band, you started touring with bigger bands, and it became more about draw instead of about connecting with the fans. And so I wanted to, ask what that disillusion between what the original vision was and then what it was almost becoming before you pulled the plug.
Well, it's like, Lifetime was around for a long time with very little, moderate to little success, And then we put out Hello Bastards, and we noticed, like, there was, like, a change, like, people really started liking us. It wasn't, like, huge or anything like that, but we could tell. And we were really proud of that record, and it was, like, a big accomplishment for us. It was like years of us, took years of trying to figure out how to do something like that, like make those kind of songs. And so we finally did it, and people were finally starting to pay attention. And that was also the time when, like, punk bands were just getting signed and becoming millionaires. So it was very confusing coming from, like, the sort of basement punky scene. And then you just kind of get more opportunities to tour with bigger bands. And while on the one hand, everybody wants success, it felt
like disingenuine.
It did. The last tour we did, when we did a tour with Good Riddance, and that really, like, for me, was really difficult because we were playing these bigger places, and it just really became more like trying to sell T-shirts and sort of like, and it became difficult, like, trying to become a big punk band. It's felt strange for us
because it's so anti what it became. because the whole point was to get a bunch of like-minded people who didn't have the opportunities or the resources of maybe something else coming together to just pour out what they had in a safe space to do so.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of taking that and trying to like squeeze money out of it.
Everybody wanted to be huge. It like really started to affect everything and everybody. Like when we did Hello Bastards, we were really we knew what we wanted to do. And then I remember by the time we finished recording Jersey's Best Dancers, we were sort of I remember when we were sequencing the record, we were trying to figure out like, okay, if this song goes first, it'll appeal to like the pop punk kids, but it might turn off the hardcore kid. And we started to like sort of stray from our own little world and started to take into account like how to get bigger and how people would hear it, and it just started to change a little bit.
Well, at that point, you had labels, bigger labels, talking to you too, and I think it was just putting all this stuff in your heads. You guys, I just remember I remember that discussion with the sequence, and you guys were sort of arguing about it, and it was weird. But yeah, I think that's what happened. I think that happened at 002.
Yeah.
All that talk about labels, I personally am like a huge fan of everything that Jade Tree has put out. So what was it like being a part of that lineup, I guess, during the time of the boom? Because I'm like a big Cap and Jazz nut. Love that band. I'm pretty sure Strike Anywhere was on there for a little while before they got scooped up, and just like being a part of that time for that label, because that time I think is pretty much why Epitaph bought it.
Yeah. Well, I understand why people would look back and be like, whoa, they were on Jade Tree. But it wasn't, all these, like I was saying before, like all these other labels were like just getting huge, and bands were getting huge, and bands were getting, crazy bonuses and all this stuff. And we'd be on tour and people would still be like, oh, you guys have a record out? What label you on? And, you're like, Jade Tree. They're like, oh, what's that? So, in hindsight, Jade Tree seems like a powerhouse, and they definitely had a lot of good bands for a long time. But I'd say that they were in the right place at the right time. It was the people that they were friends with that really made it happen, not necessarily the label.
They just had the right circle of friends.
For sure.
And then going from there, you guys, I know No Idea had something to do with the reunion record. Because I have the vinyl and it has the No Idea thing on the side. So No Idea is another one of personally my favorites, with the Gainesville scene being a big hot water music head and all that stuff. But jumping from like two very pivotal labels for kind of that era of punk, what was the experience over at No Idea any different, or because it was later? It was. I
think I had very little experience with No Idea. They sort of. I know Dan Yeaman is a little bit on, more personal terms with the label, but as far as I know, they basically just agreed to do the vinyl because I think after like a first pressing on Decay Dance or whatever, or Fueled by Ramen, whoever put out the self-titled, they didn't want to do the vinyl anymore. So I know that No Idea picked up that vinyl, and then Jade Tree eventually, not the best forward thinking, gave up all their vinyl. They didn't realize vinyl was going to
have the big resurgence.
Yeah. So that's how No Idea wound up doing the vinyl.
But you guys actually, you're repressing Hello Bastards and and Jersey's Best right now, right?
Yeah. Right. So, Epitaph, I guess, bought out the back catalog for J-Tree. So we were just next in their lineup of reissues. So, yeah, they just, I guess, reissued Hello Bastards and Jersey's Best.
Word. No, that's always cool. And I guess kind of the last thing I had on my mind for Lifetime, naturally, is I got to ask about theme song.
Okay.
As an avid basement show goer, I spent like 6 months here as the local music director. So I was always going to shows, meeting bands and stuff, had a lot of different experiences there. And theme song paints a very clear picture that I feel that a lot of people who go to those shows have had. And I wanted to ask, one, like, was that your experience, or was that just kind of an amalgamation of many experiences? And was it meant to be painted in a negative light, or kind of just like a melancholic homage?
Well, when I lived in Handy Street, when we would do shows, and the shows basically were like right under my bedroom. And yeah, I remember writing some of those lines like right there, like in that, space, in that, like, in the kitchen, and like, it was my bedroom, the kitchen, and then like the stairs going down to the basement. And no, it wasn't meant as a negative at all.
No, because I always laugh at the line of, do you hate this band too?
Yeah.
Because I feel like everyone goes to see a handful of bands that they love, and then there's always like a couple bands that always sneak into the bill that they're like, oh, these guys again.
Well, that was about Ignite.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, snap.
I mean, look, it's 1,000 years later, but yeah, that was about Ignite.
Interesting.
They had played there recently.
All right. So, gonna go over my list one more time. Calling back to like the bands, did you ever hear like the covers that people did of your guys' stuff? Did they ever contact you? Because I know Silverstein did Rodeo Clown, Newfound Glory did Cut the Tension, and like I remember those kind of helped me find the band because I was pop punk emo kid, and then eventually stumbled into Lifetime. I'm like, oh, word, they're from Jersey, me too.
Yeah. I remember I heard a whole bunch of those. I don't know if I heard them all, but there was supposed to be like a covers record that was supposed to come out. And I know like a lot of bands recorded for it. I know Fall Out Boy did one song. I don't know. It's cool. I like hearing when bands cover us. We get sent stuff all the time, like just some dude in his bedroom doing an acoustic version of something, and it's always cool.
Yeah, no, the Fall Out Boy one I stumbled onto, they have there's an acoustic version of Turnpike Gates that they did.
Oh, okay.
And they have their one track off the first album, Reinventing the Wheel to Run Myself Over. You listen to it, and it's just like textbook Lifetime. And it's my favorite Fall Out Boy song.
No, I like all that stuff. That's cool.
It is very much. I've been trying to convince my band to do Lifetime covers, but our drummer hasn't quite gotten as fast yet. Working on it. So
It's hard to do.
It is. Scotty's great.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play. So that's it for my Lifetime segment. Up next, going to be jumping into some stuff about 00 and Misty K.
Awesome.
So to call that in, I'm going to play Pep off of their album AM Gold. So talking about 00, you guys I was watching an interview earlier that was cut, and it was cool hearing you guys talk about the ethos of the sound that you were developing called Pep. And the way you kind of like summed it up was like electro psychedelic punk. And so I wanted you to ask if you guys could talk
After we
about
finished
that for a
AM
while
Gold,
and how that
last
idea came to
record,
be.
we didn't have a band to play with, so there was just the three of
Do
us.
you have an idea?
And so the biggest mission was
remember?
to form a band and try to play out.
it was.
I think we spent at
It was
least
after
7 months
after Lifetime broke
working
up.
on forming a band. We tried some stuff with some
we sort of
drum
went through a
machines,
few
played in Philly,
versions
played some other shows,
of
didn't really
00
work out.
before it became
So,
00.
We experimented a little.
And then
And
we
then
hired
Dave
a drummer,
from
Alex,
Lifetime
and a keyboard player.
started
and I
playing
moved
with
bass,
us
and
too.
the
I
live
think
show came
when
together.
the three of us
that was probably
sort of
7
really
months.
got
And
together,
now we're writing for a new record. So I guess we're like halfway done.
and
Writing for a new
recording
record.
ourselves. Dave was pretty ahead with like getting into Pro Tools shows and stuff like that. And we had a little warehouse space. It was the first time
We like to play like
we weren't
punky
doing
shows and indie shows where
punk
people
or
don't
hardcore.
normally come expecting
And it was
to
the
dance at all, or
90s,
even
and there was a lot of good like
move
indie
around
rock and
too
stuff
much.
like that.
Bringing that to those
A lot of
kind
sounds.
is our newest
So
mission.
it was the 2000s,
Yeah.
yeah.
Lots.
It's really
So
fun.
it was
like,
just,
to see that
really
happen.
fun, like when
You know, there was a
everybody
lot
is
of music
dancing.
that we were
So
listening
awesome.
to
Just, like,
that
everybody
was
relaxes and lets loose.
just getting
has
us
a good
excited,
time.
like, oh, we
To
can
me,
do
that's
that,
like the
we
best
can do
thing
this,
that
we
we
can do
can
whatever we
do.
want.
Just make
And,
like a big party.
I
We're
think
just trying to
that's
like have
what
the same
started
kind of
that
energy
idea of like
that
us
we had
just,
in the other bands that we did.
I think we were all very
You know,
excited,
Just to, I mean,
And,
the object then was to
just
get
psyched
people
to
to
create
have fun and participate.
something new for us,
I
you know.
think it
You
was
know,
the
just because
90s
you
for
play
a
a
minute,
different kind of
though.
music.
Now
You
that
know, a
I'm
lot of
thinking
bands,
about
they
it.
Yeah.
just
I think it
expect
started in the
crowd
90s. Yeah, you're
really
right.
to not move.
It's hard to
And then
remember.
so they don't really write songs to make the crowd move.
After
or
so many
react.
projects,
So
and-
we just
But
really
I
try
think,
and just make
you
a
know,
kind
we
of
had
music
this
that
this
just
kooky little
people
space
can go and
in
have
North
fun to,
Brunswick.
just enjoy themselves.
Really was a space that my mom was renting to use because she has a children's theater thing.
Psychedelic electro
And then
punk.
we
Or
needed a
electronic
space, so
Psychedelic electronic punk.
it was
I think
kinda
when
like,
we were
Mom,
doing
can we
AM
use your
Gold, we were trying to figure out what
space,
the,
too?
like,
And
what
she
we were
said
doing,
sure,
'cause
and
it didn't sound like
it
anything
was
that I'd
really
ever heard before. None of us
kind of
had ever heard
perfect
before.
because it was
And
like
we
in the
were
middle of
we need
nowhere.
something
We
like
weren't
brand
bothering
name for
anyone. It
this
had
kind
like a
of
few separate
music,
rooms
and
so
then
that
people
we
will
made
make
the one,
pep,
and
or
she
like,
really wasn't
it will
using it
become
anymore anyway.
a-
There was this
our
one
sound, and if
really
we
small
make-
room that was
if
sort
we
of like
define what pep is, it will
the
actually be
studio
easier
room.
for
So
us to
Dave had
write
his
to
computer
it,
stuff
because
set up, and
when we're
there'd be
sitting
some
around being like,
instruments
what
and
are we
amps in
doing?
there, and
What
there's
is
a bunch of
this? It
records
doesn't really
and
make any
stuff, right?
sense.
That's
And
what
then-
Bathroom was too.
And that's what we're doing.
Uh-huh.
And then it
Vocals.
became
That was the
like
vocal
part of our
booth,
language.
and
We'd be in
then
the
we
studio
had
and
two bigger
be playing
rooms,
part.
and one of
That's
them
pep.
had like a
You
window
know?
so you could
Oh,
see.
that's pep it out. It's not
And
pep
sometimes
enough.
we would just use
I
it
mean,
for
only meant
effects,
things
like
to us,
run a
but
cord through the
eventually it will
window
mean
to
something
the
to the whole world.
amp and a mic
Well,
or whatever,
that's what we hope.
because the room had
We want to
that
see
room
reviews,
had like a bigger
you know,
sound,
in like
and then
CMJ or something.
sometimes
we're like, oh, they're doing that whole
like go
pep
to that
thing.
other bigger
It's so
room
played out.
where we would rehearse in because the drums were
Not
set up in
talking
there.
about us, of course.
No,
Talking about
we're-
everybody else.
But it was so fun because
But like so
it
many
was
people
like
are doing it. It's just like
back
pep.
then-
0-0 has moved on to doing
Zero,
it.
zero.
none of us had like
And by
real
then,
no
jobs
one
yet,
could do
right?
pep like
Maybe Dave
0-0.
did. He probably had a real job.
Yeah.
But you and I don't know. I think I was bartending, and we had the record store, and
In the studio, the turntable was
eventually we
probably
didn't, but you
one of
know,
the main instruments.
we spent
So
so much
once
time
the
in there
basic
just
track
kind of
is
fooling
down,
around. And the whole
you just sit there
thing
with the
about
turntable
pep
and like
happened one night in there with
try
the three
different
of us.
beats
We're
for
just
different
being
songs. Kind of like a DJ would,
goofballs.
but
And
mixing against.
I guess, you know, making
that
fun
track
of how
that's
everything
barely
has to
done,
be
so-
A lot of it's
labeled, and
spontaneous.
there has
Like, there are
to
some
be
things
a
that can be written and
way
then
to
start
describe
from there.
something, you know, right?
And then
And just kind of happened,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We were just into everything too.
And we were into, yeah, we've all the three of us had a lot of similar tastes, but all over the place, you know, and really never wanting to be labeled as one thing. So this was sort of saying a lot, like psychedelic electropop. I mean, it's kind of a joke too at the same time, you know?
But like when you synthesize it into this one thing, it
Yeah.
becomes a little more cohesive and a little, because like it is kind of categorizing it, but at the same time, you're categorizing non-categorization because you're pulling from so many different places.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Plus, pep is just a fun word to say.
And it's a very fun track. So you mentioned like being fans of everything. A lot of the lyrics from 0-0 and also like Lifetime and everything, you guys sing about the radio a lot. So I imagine the radio plays an important part in finding new artists, new music to get into for the both of you. So like, curious, what are some of your favorite stations?
Well,
the
I gotta
radio
say,
sucks now. No offense.
you know, it was. I love, my favorite thing in the world is Oldies Radio. So like down by us, it's 1410 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the local oldies station at the beach. But you know, when I grew up, AM radio was, you know, all the like the, you know, pop songs of like the 70s and 80s. You know, growing up, all those influences all through the radio, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then also I remember when I started getting into punk, you know, living in Edison and being so close to New Brunswick, there was always a college radio station with tons of like weird stuff on, and you could also catch PRB, which is Princeton. So
I found out about so many bands from RSU and PRB.
I remember
and FMU.
I think it was like 1986. Like Rutgers, I don't know what show it was, but they did like a 24-hour like punk broadcast. And I remember I still have like cassettes that I recorded from the radio, just like recording people's radio shows and stuff. So college radio, it's definitely one of the biggest, you know.
Any DJ personalities you remember that you would always like tune in to catch their show?
No, my memory's not that good.
Don't worry about it. So from 00, after that project dissolved, came Misty K and the Revenge. And Ari, that was like first time back behind the drums, right?
Yeah.
There was High School Sweethearts.
I played drums actually near the end of Lifetime. I started playing drums with a friend of mine in his band called the High School Sweethearts, and that was like a garage rock kind of band.
That was our first band together.
Yeah, and then eventually Tannis joined that on keyboards, and we did that for a while. In fact, the last Lifetime show, when we first broke up, we played two shows at the Melody, and then that night I had a show with the Sweethearts at the Court Tavern. So I played 3 shows that day.
Like a matinee a night, and then
That was
we did
mean.
two matinees, and then I had to go
Why'd you agree to that?
play a rock and roll set at night.
Messed up.
Yeah, I can't turn down playing music. But yeah, so I was drumming for a little while. I think I played drums on some of the 00 stuff.
You did.
On the record.
Yeah.
But yeah, once we started Misty K and the Revenge.
Scotty GoBots was playing with us in
Scotty
002
Gobots played
for a while.
little bit in 00.
He did some shows with us, didn't he?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I have pictures.
But yeah, so I mean, the thing is, 00 broke up, not in the best of ways. But that night, Tannis was working at a plant bar in New York, and I was there just kind of hanging around. And like that, I think it was like the day 00 broke up. We were like, we're starting a band right now. And we wrote some of the lyrics like that night, I think. Right?
Yes. We wrote lyrics to
Fake Italians.
Fake Italians.
And something else, I don't know. But yeah,
Fake Italians. That was the first song.
Yeah.
it's funny hearing that because it's a term that me and my friends throw around at each other.
Really?
Yeah. No, we're all big Sopranos nuts, so we always.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, when you're from Jersey.
Yeah. When you're a North Jersey Italian, as me and my friends. But before we go on, I wanted to spin some Misty K and the Revenge for some more questions about Misty K and the Revenge, and also 00 in this regard. But I imagine it's a very cool thing to be able to work with your partner creatively for so long, and like the number of different projects that you guys have embarked on together, from music to parenthood, I imagine is a very interesting thing. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to ask like what that was like evolving as a duo, both musically and in your lives.
Okay. Well, I guess the biggest going from making music to making babies, right? The biggest change would be finding time and energy to continue to make the music. We still did. I mean, every kid is on a record, either still in my belly or outside. There's every kid as a baby was somewhere in the background of a song making like a coo or some kind of a noise. So we kept going for as long as we could. We would just bring the kids. until they just got super bored of it and annoying.
Yeah, now they don't care.
Now they don't care at all. They think it's boring.
Yeah, they didn't even want to come see any Lifetime stuff last weekend.
No, it's like down the street.
Yeah.
You don't want to see Daddy play? No, it's too late. It's a school night.
Meanwhile, all of us were trucking down. No.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. So those weren't your kids stage diving.
No.
No.
Those are other Lifetime kids.
That was like probably one of my favorite parts about going to go see Lifetime in the Souls is that the kids always get involved, crowd surfing the kids and stuff. And like when I was little, I didn't even know that world kind of existed, and I would have loved to be a part of that when I was like 10 years old and get to go to my first real show till I was like 15.
Yeah.
And that was still at like a venue, not like with a barrier and everything, not like not like House. I've come to love House in the last few years because
There's no barrier.
Yeah.
You can go crazy.
It's a fun place.
Yeah.
So, in addition to that, Misty K actually got a little bit of syndication, if I remember correctly. You guys appeared in a couple movies and TV shows.
Yes.
So I imagine that was a strange thing to just be like, oh, can we use this in our film?
We still do stuff all the time.
Well, I wouldn't say all the time.
Yeah.
But occasionally something pops up. It's pretty cool. The first thing we ever got was a song in a movie, and we were able to go to the premiere of the movie in New York, and that was kind of exciting because I had never done anything like that before. There were a couple of celebrities there, and it was just a whole different experience. It was cool. And then after that, we had a song in a Clearasil commercial.
Yeah.
And that was also really strange, but awesome. And then, a few other things, like some TV shows, a couple other commercials. The funniest was we have a song in the movie The Wrestler. And,
Great movie.
And we hadn't seen it yet. The funniest thing about all these commercials and TVs and whatever is we haven't had TV, I don't know, in like 15 years or whatever. So, and now you can stream things, so I'm more familiar with stuff now. But for a long time, we would be asked if a song could be used in whatever TV show. And I would say, well, okay, sure, sounds cool, but I had no idea what it was. Mm-hmm. And I would bring it up to like my mom or a friend, and they'd say, oh my God, I know that show. But I really had no clue. And then it would come out and they would see it and then tell me about it. Oh, I watched and I heard your song. That's cool. And I'd say, oh, okay. Was the placement good? Yeah, it was good. Cool. And I don't think I've seen most of what we have songs in. Yeah. But The Wrestler is the funniest because we were told it was like music playing in a club. That's all I knew. And then my parents actually went to see it in the theater before we saw it. And then I talked to them afterwards and I said, so how was the movie? Oh, the movie was good. And how was the song? Like, the placement? Could you hear the song? Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it's unforgettable. And I thought, okay, what does that mean? What's going on in the club? They're like, well, you'll see, So I was a little nervous. And Ari and I went to the theater to see the movie. And it turns out there's a scene where they walk. There is a club scene, and we are playing in the club. It's actually really hard to hear the song, but they go into the bathroom. And something happens in the bathroom, and I'm not going to say it on the air because I probably can't, but if you've seen the movie, it is unforgettable. And that's where the song was. And I felt so embarrassed that my parents saw that before me. And I'm a grown woman, and I was still mortified that they saw that.
And that scene is now like tied to your project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially because I'm sure you told your parents, like, oh, we're featured in this. And so in kind of a way, you're the one who told them to go see it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were still proud.
You also wrote 3 songs for Disney.
Yeah, we were.
Was it Ninja Girl?
No, Samurai Girl.
Samurai Girl.
We were commissioned. Yeah, they asked us to write 3 songs, and I don't think we ended up giving them all to them, though.
No, they went with one.
Well, we didn't let them take them all, right?
Oh.
We changed our mind.
That's right.
But yeah. Anyway.
Is that like for one of the Disney Channel original movies?
It was, yeah.
It was like a
it was supposed to be a
TV
show,
thing. It was
but it
really bad.
didn't work out.
There was like a period of time where they just kept putting out duds.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Samurai Girl.
Yeah, don't watch that.
It's a good song, though. It's one of our best songs.
I think that's really interesting, going from, like you mentioned, how like now getting into all of these different media things, but also because Misty K was the first thing you guys did on your own.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit about that off air, but like, what was the recording process like, or the getting it together process of just the two of you trying to put this thing together without the knowledge, or I guess the pre-existing knowledge of how to record and everything?
Well, okay, so we wrote the songs. We wrote some songs by ourselves, and then we wrote with Zach, right?
Yeah, we made
then
a demo
Jamie.
on a cassette.
And then
And
actually
it was recorded
made
at
this.
Pete
Yeah, we
Steinkauf's
recorded,
place.
and so the first thing we did was very punky.
Yeah.
But then when we got a chance to make a record, then we went to work with a Lop, and that's when we kind of just like took over and started really changing all the sounds and messing around with stuff.
Yeah, because I think at that point we were sort of going back to how we worked with 00, and just like once we were back in a studio and had dials to turn and stuff, we were like, let's do this and make it sound like that. And yeah, so it sort of started to morph right away.
Pete's, is that Chunkasaw? Cool.
Yeah.
No, I have. Last time I saw them, they had the split that they did when they did. What did they do? They did Wayfarer, and then Hot Water did True Believers. So
Right,
that was
yeah.
like, I always knew about Chunkasaw, but that's like my physical connection to Chunkasaw.
Right.
But it's cool seeing all the correlations. So we're gonna pop off the air one more time, play another Misty K track, and then we'll actually, you know what? Let's we're actually going to jump into Mighty Lion.
Oh.
That's all right. So I'm going to play. So once again, you're listening to It Came From the Basement on 90.3 The Core. Let me fix that 1 second. You heard You Lost Me by Mighty Lion, which was a project that Ari did with a number of collaborators. And so in my research, preparing for this, I read Mighty Lion was written while watching over your house down in Asbury during Irene, right?
That's when I first started recording for this and writing songs for it. Yeah. Are you trying to make me stop moving?
Yeah, you stayed behind.
Yeah, you guys all left. Tannis and the kids went to her parents' house, and I stayed home to watch over the house. And I think I just got GarageBand, and I just started writing songs for this record, for Mighty Lion record.
You did a lot of it like on GarageBand, but on your phone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I have a very good friend of mine. They record all of their albums on their phone in their car.
Yeah.
So that's like their studio, and I always thought that was a cool tie-in. But I imagine being home down the shore during Irene was not a fun time.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just being able to like isolate yourself and write.
It's I don't know. It's kind of weird, cool experience.
Yeah, but it really wasn't even that bad. Sandy was worse.
Sandy was worse, and we
didn't
were all
leave-
home for Sandy.
Yeah, we didn't leave for that. And that one we had, I mean, we still were super lucky. We didn't have that much damage. We lost a window, and a lot of damage was done to a car in the driveway. But, you know, the shingles were coming off the neighbor's house and like hitting our house, getting stuck in the siding and breaking windows, that kind of thing. But we didn't have any flooding in our house. I know people that lost their homes altogether, so we were still super lucky, but no power for like 8 or 9 days. And we were all home. We had a baby too. Our son was only like a few months old. Sergi.
Little buddy.
Yeah. Just a little baby.
But yeah, it's kind of fun, weather, when it's like serious weather.
Hey, New Jersey, it's got a lot of weather.
But, it's kind of, it was a cool night.
But you didn't do that whole thing in one night.
No.
Yeah, that was the jump off.
That was like a lot of
the
ideas.
starting point.
Yeah.
So, like, on that album, you pulled from a lot of, you mentioned before you listened to a lot of oldies. I think there's a lot of oldies influences on there, like a lot of doo-wop, a lot of, like, old stuff. So, and if I remember also reading correctly, when first writing the hooks for Lifetime, you were trying to pull a lot from the Beach Boys.
I always loved Oldies Radio and doo-wop and stuff like that. And ever since I was younger, and still to this day, mostly listen to just old, anything old and interesting.
We're sort of cranky and don't like a lot of new stuff in general. I mean, our kids are now getting into music on their own, and so they'll play stuff like, can I put my playlist on? And it's some of it I'm cringing listening to, and then some of it, it's okay. And it just makes me feel old and like a typical mom, like, turn that down. Like, what is that crap? But
yeah, but you can't tell your kids what to listen to.
I would never do that, but because my parents didn't. They always let me. No matter how much my dad hated The Cure, he never told me to turn it down. He told me that The Cure was a fad, and they were never going to be very successful. And I would say no.
And now here we are,
Robert Smith.
30 years of disintegration.
Yeah. So my dad was wrong. Sorry.
No, I was always thankful. My parents never told me what to not and not listen to. But I also, for a while, I didn't really like anything that was coming out modern. But my time at the station has helped me like find new stuff that's coming out.
That has a lot to do with it. When we had a store, you're just exposed to more stuff that you're not going to hear unless you're in the world, and in that scene. And that's how it happens. But once you sort of get out of that and you're just like living your regular adult life, it's hard for me to relate to that. I would really have to be digging around. But if I didn't have, before we had our own store, I worked in a record store here in New Brunswick for a long time.
Which one?
Cheap Thrills.
Okay.
Does not exist anymore, unfortunately. But that place changed my life. I met a lot of New Brunswick people there, like the Souls and Ari. And
well, I worked at the health food store across the street.
Yeah, and I would go in there every day for a snack. But anyway, and just meeting so many musicians around, from the area and seeing shows, and then being exposed to music all the time, like as part of my job for years, and I always loved music, so it was great. It's the best environment. When you're not in that environment, when you're not, you have to put in a lot more effort. And I guess I do sometimes, but it's not the same thing. I will admit I'm a little caught up in my regular grown-up world, working, momming, and then pretty much just sticking to what, like we have tons of records at home. I stick to that too, just like you do. It's really like, maybe one day I'll get more interested in new stuff, but right now I'm not.
All right, well, I'm curious then. What was the last record to come out that really caught your attention?
Oh, man. Like a new record?
The last one that you, like, remember completely, like...
Hold on.
I can't even...
Do you have one?
I like the new School Drugs record.
They're great.
Yeah.
I've seen them live and they're great, but I haven't listened to the record. I know, sorry. But they are really good.
I was actually introduced to School at the Beach Rats release show. So that was my first time ever seeing them, and I copped a shirt immediately because they did the shirt with Sick. They had like the little double shirt because Bobby's in both bands, and I was like, oh, cool. I always like finding little music communities. That's like my favorite thing, just networks and stuff. So
Beach Rats are playing Friday.
Down at the house, right?
By the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to pull up the House of Independence, it's the 3-year anniversary. 4-year anniversary of House of Independence. So catch Beach Rats, Speedy Ortiz. I forget who else is on that lineup, but
Me too.
should be a fun time. Beach Rats are great. I can vouch. I've seen them.
All right.
So speaking of Beach Rats, I think that's the next thing I'm going to spin. So you just heard Stay All Night by Beach Rats, which is the latest in the projects, members of the Bouncing Souls, Pete and Brian, Brian from Minor Threat, Bad Religion, so many.
Dag Nasty.
Dag Nasty. How could I forget? Dubs on drums and Ari on vocals. So Beach Rats was very much a shell shock band for me because I remember reading about it. I think it was Brooklyn Vegan posted about it or something, and it had all these names in a row. And I thought I was reading like a fake article, a joke article or something, but no. Jersey's Best has gotten together to form a hardcore band, and I was like, yes. So we pulled up to that show, me and a couple of friends at the brewery, and that was a fun time. So I guess my first question is, what made you want to put that band together, and why now?
Well, I feel like I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. So
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. The way that it happened was, it was just the best way, I think, for a band to start. Because, well, not really. Going back, Dave Franklin, the singer from Vision, died a few years ago. And there was a big benefit show that a lot of our friends were putting together at Convention Hall in Asbury Park. And Lifetime was asked to play, and so were the Souls, but neither full bands could do it. So Pete Steinkoff called me, and he said, how about, you, me, and Brian, and Dubs do a couple of covers, and we'll play the show, and it'll be fun, and it'll be, super cool. So it was like, okay, sure. So we did like 5 covers or something like that, which was very nerve-wracking. We did like a Cro-Mags cover, a Minor Threat cover, 7 Seconds, Dead Kennedys, and Bad Brains. Mm-hmm. Like the hardest songs.
Mm-hmm. It's very ambitious.
Yeah, very ambitious. There's like, I don't know, like 4,000 people at the show. But it was super fun. We played. And then after the set, Brian Keeneland from the Souls is like, hey, Brian Baker moved here, and he wants to start a hardcore band. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Sure. Because I didn't know Brian Baker. I didn't know he moved to the beach. And then about, I don't know, like a couple months later, I kind of sort of forgot about it. But then a couple months later, Pete Steinkoff called, and he's like, do you want to practice next week with, Brian and the rest of the guys? And then that was the first night I met Brian Baker and started the Beach Rats that night. And I think we did it because I did it because I was asked. Those guys, I think, the guys in the Souls, I feel like they've always wanted to play hardcore but never really got the chance. And I think Baker just was like, I want to do something fun with some friends. and we all live.
I think you guys
like
had
10
so much
minutes.
fun doing your fake hardcore band that it was like, yeah, let's keep this going.
Well,
Right?
but it was Baker that was like, hey, I want to start a band, and was talking to the Souls about it, and you know, Pete and Brian from the Souls, and I think
I just mean you guys were like, it was so much fun.
we had a lot of fun, but I don't think we were all looking to start a new hardcore band.
No.
But I don't know, it was just so much fun, and we just like wanted, you know, we sort of just got in a room and started writing, and everything came together really quick, and I think we did it the right way. You know, we didn't like announce it. We didn't you know, we wrote the songs. We went and recorded it ourselves. We paid for it. And then we were like, you know, let's see what we have. And then once it was recorded, the EP was recorded, then we like approached a couple labels, and that's when we like kind of announced it to the world, you know. And it just was great, you know, like it wasn't, you know, we didn't put a lot of hype behind it. We didn't like promote it really. We just like did it. And it's really fun. I never thought I'd be singing in 2 hardcore bands. But it's fun, super fun. And, you know, right now we're writing for an LP.
Full length?
Yeah.
Awesome. That was actually going to be one of the things I asked, but
Yeah.
cool. Any reason you guys decided to go with Bridge 9?
We didn't want to... We were sort of trying to avoid, like, too much, like, supergroup hype and stuff like that. And we didn't want to be on, like, a big punk label. We wanted to we sort of always said, like, we want to be able to play basement shows and festivals. So, like, and, you know, we don't have, like, a full-time schedule, and the other guys are in more full-time bands. So we just wanted to have flexibility and not be in a label that's going to be like, you got to get on the road, or, and, you know, we just wanted to be fun and be able to grow and do whatever we want to do. That's the name of the band too. Like, we didn't want to have a serious name. You know, we're just trying to keep it fun and light, and just for the fun of playing hardcore with mosh parts, you know.
Hardcore with mosh parts.
Yeah.
No, I very much love like the lighthearted side. Like, I get a kick out of Sports Sucks.
Yeah. Well, that's from the heart.
Yeah. No, I was put into sports when I was a kid. Wasn't really for me. Once I found like music and stuff, that's where all my attention went. But that was more marching band stuff, not necessarily hardcore. So, with Beach Rats, you mentioned that you wanted to play basement shows, and last year you guys actually did, if I remember. You guys played one of my friend's houses, actually. You guys played at Eastern Bloc.
Yeah, that was fun.
So, like, was that like the first New Brunswick show since the 2007 with Lifetime?
That I played? Probably. I think I went to a couple of shows. Been to a few basement shows in New Brunswick since then. But that was the first one I played. And that was really fun. It was fun to play there. Right? You were there.
I was.
Yeah, that was super fun.
We went in the Beach Rats mobile.
Yeah, we have a really sick van with the beach rat on the side.
That's awesome.
And we rolled down, went to that, and we played, and we pretty much packed up and left. We didn't say goodbye or ask for money. We just left. Yeah, we just like did it because we could, and it was fun. And we want to be able to do stuff like that with the Beach Rats.
You guys were actually, weren't you like filling in because a band had to drop on that bill or something? It was like pretty impromptu.
No. We were on that for a long time, and they were like, and then closer to the date, they said like, oh, it's actually the Beach Rats.
Okay, cool.
And they said it like that. They
They're
went,
like, yeah, it's the Beach Rats.
actually.
No, because me and my friends all fell for the fake band. I unfortunately wasn't able to make that show because I was running my own one across town, but a lot of my friends showed up there and they were all like, we just saw Brian and Ari in a basement, like losing their minds because we're all we're all trying to recapture or have our own version of what you all did when you guys were here, our own bands, our shows, stuff like we haven't. No one's really gone on tour yet. I think the furthest any of us have gone is like maybe Georgia.
Yeah, but you don't realize like while you're doing it, you have to do it because then otherwise nothing comes from it. So like you may not, bear the fruits for a while. That's usually how it works.
Oh, none of us are doing it for reaping the fruits, I guess. We all just do it because we all have a need to play music.
Right, but you want something to happen. You guys are trying to make something happen, and sometimes it takes a while to realize like what happened.
I mean, maybe they are. I just like playing.
Yeah.
I love other people's music a lot more than I like my own. I think maybe that's why. Yeah. I don't want anything to come of it because then I'd have to go more into it. But I guess moving on from Beach Rats, I wanted to ask about the Black Cat, the record store that you guys had down in Red Bank, and what it was like running that, because owning a record store is very much like a dream of mine, and I'd want to hopefully one day be able to do it if the resurgence gets big enough that it would be plausible to do so.
I remember when we opened it, I remember like within the first week, I was like, that was the biggest mistake we've ever made in our lives, opening a record store. It's really hard to do, money-wise, all that stuff.
We made no money.
To people that aren't really business people.
No, we just like records and music.
We just have good ideas. We don't really know how to.
Yeah.
But it was great. All that being said, like it was pretty awesome. And like we still are friends with
a lot of our customers
and see people all the time that were like little kids and now they're like gross adults and they're doing stuff and like like when we were younger, record stores, it's like everything, like that's where you make some of your lifelong friends, where you like find things that you love the rest of your life and like talk to people that turn you on to ideas. And so like we all grew up having stores like that in our lives, and then we had the opportunity to do that. And it's awesome. I always feel really good about it when I see somebody or meet somebody that's like, I bought my favorite record there, that thing changed my life, or you told me I gotta listen to this, because I don't remember anything. But like it was I don't know, I feel like a good thing. It was worth
the stress and tears.
Yeah,
I remember crying. I was so stressed out.
Opening a business is not easy.
No.
But what were your like respective hub record stores? The one, because you mentioned people come in and find themselves in the. So where was that spot for you?
I remember
Vintage Vinyl.
Well, if I can go back.
Okay, you're way older than
when
me.
I first started, got my first punk record at the Route 1 flea market, and then there was a record store. It was called Tape World back then, that I used to ride my bike to, and I would get anything that looked sort of punky, anything on like SST or something like that. But then eventually it changed to, once I was mobile, Vintage Vinyl was definitely like the place.
And Cheap Thrills.
Remember when Vintage Vinyl was like
little? It was
tiny.
one store.
It was like the size of a little row.
Yeah. That's when I first started going there.
Yeah.
And then there was Music in a Different Kitchen here in New Brunswick.
Music in a Different Kitchen was good. Princeton Record Exchange. Although Princeton Record Exchange wasn't really like carrying like hardcore.
No.
In the 80s.
But going to New York, there was Bleecker Bob's. And there was, I want to say Sound on Sound, but that was here. There was
That was later.
No, but there was a store in the city called Sound something. Why can't I think of it? You don't remember?
I think you're making this up.
I'm making it up, guys.
But there was always good record stores in this area for sure. Cheap Thrills, Vintage Vinyl. It was good because Vintage Vinyl was always into hardcore. Cheap Thrills in the 90s and early 2000s was like like indie rock. Like you would go in there and like that awesome era when like K Records and all those like super tiny little indie labels were putting out 1,000,000 7-inches. Like that was the place they would have
it was, you know, mostly like rock. And I mean, because we being in a college town, we had to cater also to like the top 40 for the just college rock kind of stuff. And then Sam Goody opened.
Yeah.
Remember
They're
that?
not there anymore, are they?
No.
Sam Goody not in town anymore? And
I'm not sure if they're here, but Sam Goody might still be around. Because I definitely remember hearing that name.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, there were Sam Goodies, and I would go to, there was a...
Goody's got it.
Yeah. I would get cassettes and records there. I remember getting a couple of records there. Like I got Madonna Holiday there and Michael Jackson Thriller, you know, because that's where, when I was little and I had to rely on my parents to drive me, that's where they would take me. East Brunswick Mall, Square Mall.
Cool.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. It's nice hearing that, like, vintage was your spot, because vintage is actually where I got my copy of the Lifetime record, the self-titled. So it's kind of cool now knowing that my record came from that spot. Because
Lifetime actually started like a lot of bands, but Dan Yeeman put up a flyer looking for a singer, and he hung it up in vintage vinyl, and that's how I got the flyer.
And that's how you
vintage
guys
vinyl
got
was
into-
everything.
It's a really cool spot. Me and were they doing the live sessions back then when they'd invite bands in to come and play?
This was before they were much smaller then.
It was basically just a storefront. It wasn't like, you know, they eventually like
They
took over like,
two more,
Yeah.
right? And it's like the size of three. now.
yeah, but now
Was it always the same location?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It was just smaller.
But it was just like one little row, like one store, and it just like, yeah.
We have a record store up by me like that. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Music Country. It's one of the oldest record stores in America. I think it opened in 1912, and like my little 1 mile diameter town, that's where me and my friends would always go and hang out. They never had a lot of punk, but the owners were very nice. I got like, when I was 15, I took my first paycheck there, and I got the Simon and Garfunkel box set.
Nice.
And so that was like my first vinyl purchasing experience from this like iconic. It was weird seeing them posted about in like NewJersey.com and stuff like that, because I'm just like, oh yeah, it's Joan and Bill. They gave my good friend guitar lessons, would play harmonica in the store, so very
That's awesome.
like homey environment,
That's cool.
which is really cool. But all right, I think it's time to play another track. So calling back from before, I asked about theme songs, so I think I'm going to spin theme song. So you just heard theme song for a New Brunswick Basement Show by Lifetime. For those of you who didn't catch the song title, it is about basement shows in New Brunswick and kind of where you are mentally kind of in those scenarios. And what I find really cool about that song personally is that Hello Bastards came out in 99 or 97. And
Sure.
and that song still speaks to a lot of people nowadays that weren't there for that time, have had their own experiences, and the words you wrote were just so universal and can be applied to a lot that it's just really cool seeing words have that kind of spreading power, being able to touch people from just completely different places with different experiences, and also kind of putting a frame on New Brunswick. Like that song's a time capsule for that time, which I always appreciate. But the words that you chose to put in there can be applied to everyone's time capsule, which I think is just an amazing feat of songwriting.
Oh, thank you.
So
Nice.
those were a lot of my comments on that song. But I'm trying to think, because now I'm going off the book.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
What you got?
So on a personal note, Ari, when I was doing like my research and stuff, I read an article that you did with the publication Juicy about different things related to Jewish culture and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And as a Jewish person myself, I have to say I really resonated with what you had to say about the othering that happens. People kind of just removing themselves from the rest of society with focus on we instead of all. And as someone who grew up, I was the one Jewish kid in a very not Jewish community. Yeah. And so I had, like, my Jewish experience was in temple, Sunday school. And then when I was at school, I was intermingling with children of all different backgrounds, Hispanic, Arabic, just from all over the world. And I'm very thankful that I had that experience. And I know your parents moved you to Israel for a little while. Mm-hmm. And so I imagine that kind of, I'm thankful that, I'm sorry to word it like this, but like I had the experience that I had, so I can kind of put myself in the middle, but I very much see where you were coming from and your decision to quit Judaism, as you put it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Just I had to touch on that because I'm very much annoying. My friends can attest. Whenever I find like members of a band that are Jewish, I just like lose my mind because I was the one Jewish kid.
Yeah.
And
you know, I it's kind of cool because I do hear that every once in a while that like some lonely Jewish kid came across my name and was like, oh, that's cool. So yeah, I guess even though I quit, I'm still down with, you know, any way to connect people, you know.
Yeah, much better Jewish punk to be connected to than Fat Mike. But besides that, I think that's all the questions that I had. Did you guys have anything that you wanted to say? I know you mentioned you had a couple people you wanted to thank. Or shout out.
Who do you want to shout out to?
Shout out? I'll shout out to my girls.
You're gonna shout out your girls?
I'll shout out my girls. Well, I'm kidding, but I'll shout out my girls.
Okay.
Right now, shout out?
Go for it. The floor is yours.
No, yeah, my girl gang, V and Allie and Meg. My kids and my dog and my cat. Who do you want to shout out to?
I don't know who to shout out
You
to.
should shout out Steve Evans.
Oh, Steve Evans?
Yes.
Steve Evans, who produced like all the Lifetime records. He's the sixth member of Lifetime for sure.
He is.
Oh yeah.
Because you guys wouldn't have your sound without him.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I want to shout out New Brunswick, Piscataway.
Yo.
It be how it
and
do.
New Bruns, this is where we met and had like all of our first hangouts.
That's right.
And it's weird when we come back to this town, it never looks the same. Like all of our original haunts are gone. Mm-hmm. They're turned into buildings for either the hospital or the university. Pretty much. Right?
Yeah.
There's really nothing.
It's a strange looking town now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a couple places left, like.
Was Spina there or is Spina Records? That's our current record shop.
Oh, no.
I think I might follow them on the gram, but I've never been there. Yeah. Shout out to Spina.
Shout out to Evelyn's because they've always been there.
Yeah.
And I still love them. And what else? What's left?
Don Giovanni.
Shout out. Shout out.
Yeah, no. Thanks for having us.
Of course, thanks for coming on. One last thing, if I could squeak in, I forgot about this, but I wanted to ask about the Rutgers hat that you always wear.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I wanted to ask, because when I first found Lifetime, one of the first things I saw was the airport video. And was that shot in New Brunswick?
Wait, you had
No,
this
that was
hat
a different
on?
hat.
I was going to say.
That was it was still a Rutgers hat.
No.
No?
No, that was...
It was...
That was straight red and white.
It was still red and white because people called you Santa.
Right, when we went to Japan, people thought that was a Christmas inspired video. Because I'm wearing that hat
too.
And I'm wearing a green sweatshirt.
Oh my God. And they for the video, they put up those string lights.
Yeah.
They weren't there before. And then I think they stayed there for a long time because there were other shows I'd see clips of that they like ended up staying there.
But people thought that was a Christmas video.
I could see that though.
I hated making that video, by the way.
That was a weird day.
I can imagine, because Lifetime isn't really a music video type band. You guys just want to put out your records, play your shows, do your time on the road.
I was down with
why'd
doing
that
a
happen?
video, but
It wasn't
one,
what
they
you wanted.
made us wear makeup, which was real weird. And then we also, there was supposed to be all these this animation component to that video, and the director was sort of like, I don't want to do that. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, but don't I have a say? He's like, no. I was like, all right.
So kind of just having the creative reins taken from
It
you.
was just a dumb video. But yeah, I'm glad we made it for sure.
Where was it shot?
Brooklyn?
Yeah, at the cake shop or whatever.
Is that in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Wow, that was in Brooklyn.
Somewhere in New York, yeah.
Right? Isn't that what it's called? Cake shop?
I think so.
Yeah.
It sounds familiar.
That's kind of confused. That like threw me off, because there was someone in the video wearing a Rutgers sweater. So I was like, oh, they shot that in New Brunswick.
No.
But no, Brooklyn.
Well, you can just still pretend it's in New Brunswick.
I will.
It could be anywhere you want.
No, that seems to be the destination of a lot of ex-New Brunswick people. A lot of friends out there. I was just at a show in Brooklyn. I ran into, I don't know if you guys are fans of Thursday at all, but Jeff Rankley was out there. Really cool emo band from a little after Thursday. But
I've heard of them.
Yeah. Some more New Brunswick outside of New Brunswick.
Yeah.
And Asbury seems to be where all of you went. So
We
The
almost
older,
moved.
the older cranky people.
We
went.
did look at a place in Brooklyn.
We did.
And then we were like, nah,
It's
forget it.
Tom Petty's daughter's old apartment.
Yeah. And then
It was disgusting.
we moved. We're like, let's just go to the beach. And then we went
And
to
it
the
was
beach ever
so
since.
expensive. Yeah, but now that we're at the beach, I couldn't go anywhere else. You know, you have like the ocean's right there. It's a really giant body of water.
And pretty much most people, from New Brunswick live there.
a lot of people came down over the years, and it's nice because, you know, we've had a lot of the same friends for a long time, and now we're still, you know, close, proximity to each other. You know, the friends that move to New York, you just see them less and less, and then eventually you don't see them at all, because when you live in New York, you don't want to leave New York, and when you live in Asbury Park, you don't want to leave
go to New
Asbury
York.
Park. You know. So it's nice that we have a lot of friends that live close because we get to see them.
yeah, no, I had a couple of my friends from New York come out to Jersey for a show. They really don't want to leave New York.
Yeah.
No, something happens.
It's a
You
pain to
just
get
don't
in,
wanna
but
go.
pain
Paying
to get out.
to travel.
Yeah,
Especially with the trains.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
But I think that's it. We're just gonna spin a couple tracks. So coming up next, let's see. Let's dump into the repertoire. See what I
Hey,
can.
before the show's over, can we each pick a song to play? Like that's not us, but like
Absolutely.
Like, do you have access to the internet? Could you just pull up anything we say?
I can check our database and see what's in there that you want to
Let's
spin.
see. All right, we'll discuss off the air.
Off the air? All right, I'll get something ready to go. And
Okay.
so after this first song that we played, the last few tracks are all going to be Tannis and Ari.
Okay,
I meant to have that going throughout, but
that's okay.
I had a lot of talking points. So coming up next, we're going to be doing, let's do haircuts and t-shirts off Lifetime's self-titled record. So signing off now is DJ Tall Guy with Tannis and Ari from Lifetime. Got any last remarks before I pot us off the air?
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on.
Super fun.
Once again, haircuts and t-shirts by Lifetime on 90.3 The Core.